This is Dan Larson from McAfee, and in this video I'm going to demonstrate how to use a feature called Endpoint Encryption out-of-band unlock pre-boot authentication. This is an important feature for us because it solves one of the long-time challenges of pre-boot authentication with full disk encryption, and that is anytime you power on a system, the only way to get that system into the operating system is for a user to be physically present at the system and able to log into the pre-boot environment. This is great for security, but it can cause challenges for IT operations. So we have this new interface in EPO that allows us to perform remote authentication. In essence, what happens is we create a key on the EPO server. We then use a secure network stack provided by Intel vPro and Deep Command to push that key to the system. And because that key is delivered from the server, there's no need for an end user to authenticate with their credentials. This was originally designed to facilitate patching. So now the EPO administrator can queue up or basically set this action so that when a system powers on, it fetches this key rather than waiting for a user to enter credentials. And if that action is waiting, then when the patching team powers on the system, it can go get that key, unlock the pre-boot environment, and then get into the operating system. In addition to the patching use case, this feature is also useful for help desk calls. If a user calls the help desk with a problem with pre-boot authentication, it's quick and easy to do this remote unlock rather than doing the traditional challenge response process. And finally, this interface gives us a way to enable a feature that we call location-aware automatic booting. The idea of this feature is that a shared system inside your environment can be set to always try and do remote authentication instead of prompting users for pre-boot credentials. This is a great solution for shared systems or in situations where it's impossible to know which users will need access to certain systems. So let's start with the simplest example, and that is unlocking a single system one time. I already have one system selected, and I'm just going to say that I want it to do the remote unlock one time. I'll click Save here. And what happens now is that this action is stored in EPO in a place that we call the work queue. This makes it easy for you to keep track of your out-of-band actions in EPO. So we just find the query, and then we run it. So you can see here for the one system that we're working with now, it has an action to unlock PBA. And for persistence, it's transient, meaning that it will perform this action for the set number of times, and then when it's done, it'll be cleared from this list. So to actually see this in action, we need to use the KVM viewer. So now I've got a connection to my client, but it is powered off. So to show this in action, let's power it on. So when the system reboots, you'll briefly see the pre-boot environment as it attempts to open a connection to EPO so that it can retrieve the key that it will use to perform authentication. Once the key is retrieved, authentication is performed, and the Windows operating system starts to load. So in addition to doing that in that kind of on-demand manner, you can also schedule that behavior down here. So you can set a date range and a time range. So that works well if you're trying to collaborate with a patching team. But the last thing I want to talk about is this option down here to permanently behave this way. This is a good option for shared systems. And what happens when you do this is that it changes the type of action that is written to the work queue. So now for persistence, instead of saying transient here, it says permanent. And that means that this action will remain in the work queue permanently. It has no planned time for expiration. So the only way to get rid of it would be to go here, select it, and then choose delete item. So this is great if you have shared systems or loaner laptops or nurses' stations in a busy hospital. What happens when you configure it this way is that it will always attempt to fetch the key from EPO rather than requiring authentication from a user. And it will do this only when the system is on your network. If the system were ever lost or stolen, it would then show pre-boot authentication and require the end user to log in that way. And the way that we ensure that it behaves this way is with this option right here. If you're meaning for it to behave this way, it is absolutely critical that you check this box. This means that if it ever tries to connect to your EPO server from outside your network, that connection will be refused, and the only way to access the system will be to log into the pre-boot environment. So in summary, we use this one screen to perform all three types of actions. If you're doing a help desk call, or if you're working with the patching team, you're okay to uncheck this box, and then you just set the number of times or set the schedule here. If you want it to be operating in the permanent unlock mode, then you must check this box and also come down here and set the option to permanent. And remember that these actions can be performed on individual system or on groups of systems. And if you need to perform this on more systems than you can display in a single screen here, then the way you do that is by making a query. You are able to select all the machines that are a result of a query. So if you need to affect, 100,000 systems, that's the way you go about it. So that, in a nutshell, is the Endpoint Encryption out-of-band unlock PBA feature.